In our last video, we learned that evangelism means good news, and that as followers of Jesus, we are messengers of the good news about Him. We learned that believing and receiving this good news for ourselves causes us to pivot our goals and our feelings and our identity and our choices toward a new purpose. How can these things help me show the world around me the good news about Jesus? What is this good news? It's the good news that the God of the universe is gracious and compassionate, slow to anger and rich in love. The Lord is good to all, and He has compassion on all He has made. The good news is that He came to earth as a human being in Jesus, and He gave His life as a sacrifice so that we could be cleansed from the guilt of our sin and free to live an abundant life in close relationship with Him. This is really good news. Unfortunately, not everyone is going to hear it that way. One of the reasons for this is that throughout history, people, some well-meaning and some not well-meaning, used violence to force others to convert to Christianity. They used the name of Jesus as a manipulative tool to promote their own agenda and their own kingdoms. This is a sad reality you've probably read about in your history books. And for some people, this is a deal breaker, and they don't want any part in hearing about what we believe as Christians. Another reason is that in our more modern history, and even in our current times, Christianity has been associated with arrogance, guilt, and fear. Threats of, accept Jesus or you'll spend eternity in hell, and pointing fingers, pointing out certain sins and then shaming people for them. This doesn't leave a good taste in people's mouths, and some people think, if that's what Jesus is about, then I'm out. None of that sounds like good news. And there are still other reasons people don't hear words about Jesus as good news. First of all, religion is not really everyday conversation, and it can make people really uncomfortable to talk about it. Jesus talk can also sound strange to many of our friends who don't have any religious background at all. It's kind of like a foreign language. And finally, because of the reputation Christianity has built, it's often automatically assumed that when we start talking about Jesus, we must be condemning anyone else who has a different religion or set of beliefs. With all this going on, it seems like it might be easier, and maybe even better, to just stay quiet and keep the good news to ourselves. After all, we don't want to offend anyone or make them uncomfortable. But here's my question. What's the first thing you do when you hear any other good news? You tell someone, right? You want to talk about it and share the goodness with someone else. It's a natural and expected part of friendship that you would share about the good things happening in your life. When my friend has good news, I want them to share it with me. I want to know about what's going on in their life, because that's what friendship is. If they have found or learned something that has helped them, I want to know about it. You may have heard the story of the woman who met Jesus at a well outside of her village. After this interaction, her reaction was to go back to the village and tell people what just happened to her and invite them to come and meet Him too. She wasn't on some sort of mission to convert people, and Jesus didn't order her to go do it. She wasn't telling them they were wrong or that there was something wrong with them. She wasn't afraid to simply share her experience with her people, because that was the normal thing to do. And it still should be. It's easy to get scared away from evangelism, but friendship is friendship, and the normal thing to do in a friendship is to share your good news. Not because you're trying to force someone to believe it, but just because you're doing life together. And when you're doing life together, you talk about the things that are happening in your life. And if what's happening in your life is goodness because of the grace, compassion, love, and freedom that come from Jesus, then why not share it?